Welcome to Discover You podcast. This is a community where you can show up exactly as you are, learn, grow, and discover how to stand in the power of who you want to be. I'm your host, Shar. Welcome, and let's dive in and discover you. Hello, you guys. Welcome to episode 1. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is finally happening. I have been planning this podcast for what feels like probably 2 years. And I finally reached a point where it's time, you guys. It is time to start to unpack everything that TheCharWay has to bring to you, and to also just literally hold space for each other and be here in the current time that we're in, the state of the world, and all of the crazy things that are going on. So what better way to start episode 1 of the Discover You podcast with talking a little bit about where the TheCharWay started from and how it came to be what it is today, which starts out rooting into the real intention and the root of where it came from and how I started the TheCharWay brand. So if you don't know me, my name is Charlotte, Char for short. Everyone calls me Char. And this is the podcast for the TheCharWay brand. So this is a health and wellness brand that I created about 5.5 years ago now, which is a lifetime ago. And what really rooted and started the TheCharWay was my own personal journey with mental health, and just wanting to talk about mental health, wanting to help people and share ways that you can truly feel great and healthy and happy in your life, even though you may have struggles with mental health, and that may be something that is your everyday existence. So that's really how the beginning was, and it still is a huge, crucial part of my life and a huge part of my everyday. Still to this day do I, have anxiety and depression and all of the things that come with that. But it started with that, and it's evolved into sharing healthy ways to nourish your body, natural products, skincare, beauty, body care, and just so much more with hormones, and then moving into yoga, meditation. So just an all-encompassing brand of just teaching you how to live your healthiest and happiest life. So for one way of putting it, you could say that it's my entire life, and I share everything that I've learned and everything that I know has been, either through courses or self-taught, because I truly believe that you can live your best and happiest and healthiest life by purely just doing good things like nourishing your body, moving your body, eating well, taking care of yourself, finding joy in all of the moments, even though there's really hard, shitty moments where you feel like you're falling apart and it feels like everything is stacked against you. But I truly feel that investing in who you are and empowering who you are is the best remedy and the best mix to get exactly what you want out of life. So that is essentially the TheCharWay. I'm getting teary-eyed just even talking about this, which is a wonderful, beautiful sign that this is a space that I can just be entirely raw and myself and just literally share in this amazing community that we can build together to empower you and to get you feeling your absolute most amazing self. And don't get me wrong, this is going to come with a lot of conversation and raw and real discussion about struggles, personal struggles that I personally go through and things that I personally struggle with, because I'm not the only one that's experiencing these things. And we are all in this rat race of trying to figure out who we are, trying to be happy. Sometimes you don't just wake up in the morning and feel instantly happy, or you don't instantly feel better, or you don't instantly just feel, yay, everything is great. So we're going to talk lots about all of those things in the weeks to come. Stay tuned every week for the podcast to go live and talking about different topics. So if you guys aren't following me over on social media, be sure to check out my Instagram, TheCharWay. Also my YouTube channel, TheCharWay. You can find all of the links through my Instagram. I've got TikTok and Twitter and all of those fun places too. So hop over there, join me, say hello, and of course, share this podcast with anyone that you think might benefit from hearing what we've got to talk about here. But of course, this is a community, so it's not just about what I have to say. I want to hear from you guys. You can always message me. My email is TheCharWay@gmail.com. I'll link that in the show notes below so you guys can find all the ways to reach me and connect and send out any podcast requests that you may have. So with all that nitty-gritty discussion out of the way, let's talk a little bit more about mental health today and how that created the TheCharWay, how that shifted my entire existence, and also just sharing a lot of different things about mental health, maybe some even coping mechanisms we can talk about today on the podcast. All right, so my personal journey with mental health has been a roller coaster, to say the least. I have been experiencing anxiety my entire life, as long as I can remember. So from probably 5 years old-ish, I remember the first time really experiencing anxiety and a panic attack, for want of a word, is when I was in elementary school, and I had this teacher who I thought at the time just scared the bejesus out of me. And I thought maybe it was just, I was little, I had no idea. My mom had always had anxiety when I was a kid. She struggled with it for a lot of her life as well, and still to this day has it. So it is something that is a learned behavior, but it is also a hereditary thing that is passed down through children. If your parents do have pre-existing mental health, you also will most likely experience some form of mental health. So my mom always did an amazing job of hiding her struggles and never letting them be at the forefront of our lives. But anytime that you have anxious tendencies or feelings, there is a body language around that. There is an energy around that. So those energies are picked up by your children. So all three of us, my brother and my sister and myself, all have anxiety. So it is a learned behavior, but also hereditary, if you didn't know that. So sometimes these things are out of your control. Sometimes they are in your environment, and it's just something that is picked up and learned. So I experienced this panic attack for the first time in, I think it was like grade 4 or 5. And I remember having to leave school and being in so much panic, and you don't really understand what's happening when you're that young. You'd have no clue why you're feeling this way. And I literally was just like, oh my God, like I need to call home. And I was always calling home and like, Mom, come get me. So we learned fairly quickly that it was anxiety. And then after I changed classrooms and changed teachers, it kind of went away and kind of didn't exist in my life. And then when I hit junior high or middle school, whatever you want to call it, again, it started to come up and it started to manifest in forms of OCD and self-mutilation, I guess you could say, for want of a word. So I started doing like hair pulling. So I would like pull parts of my hair out and have like little pieces and little like shorter areas in my hair with and it was rooted in anxiety. So when you're anxious, you want to like pull or pick at something, right? So I was like in a form self-harming, self-mutilating, whatever you want to call it. And I started to pull out my hair. Also started to like pull at my eyelashes. So I remember going through a phase where I had like no eyelashes because I kept like pulling them out, and I like would over pluck my eyebrows, like so many different things that are very common tendencies with anxiety. And to this day still, that was, 20 some years ago, and I'm 30, I'll be 31 this year. And I still have tendencies of pulling parts of my hair out where I have shorter pieces. And it's a condition, and it's something that is just a part of being anxious. Not for everybody, but that has been my experience. So I'll be honest and share that with you guys, because there's no shame in your struggles or the things that you do to cope. So once I hit that, I was a preteen, moving into teen years, I really started to kind of see that this was becoming a trend of my life. And then again, it kind of, slipped away. Obviously, the hair pulling thing still existed. And then it started to manifest again when I was about 17 and I moved into a space where I was having 3 to 4 panic attacks a day. And I had no idea what was happening. I was like, what? I'm losing my mind. Is like the feeling of like you can't breathe. Your heart is pounding, you think you're having a heart attack, like you're sick to your stomach, like you need to go to the bathroom, like whatever your experience is with common anxiety symptoms or panic attacks. And that was kind of my experience, was like, it's like heart pounding, can't breathe, need to pull over and like, holy shit, like stick your head between your knees and kiss your ass goodbye kind of thing. Because it was like, I cannot function. Like I had no idea what was happening. And I knew it was anxiety, knew it was panic. But I'm like, how do I do this? How do I live in this? So my mom, the amazing woman that she is, has obviously dealt with this her whole life too. So she was like, here's what we need to do. And she's like, and I was very sure on the fact that like I went to the doctor, got the diagnosis, talked to my doctor, got some lorazepam, which is just like a sublingual thing that you put under your tongue to help cope with like the in the moment panic attack. And that's the only drug I've ever taken for my anxiety. And I was very adamant on not needing a daily anti-anxiety medication in my journey. So just a disclaimer here, that is my journey and my personal experience. It's something that I did not want to do or want to take. But that's not everyone's experience. So if you are currently on medication or currently seeking medication or help, I highly, highly recommend that if that is an option for you and something that you feel you need, then you take that and you do that, because every single case of anxiety is so unique to every person. So never feel shame in asking for help or taking medication. So just a little disclaimer on that. But for me personally, in my journey, it was just something that I didn't feel I needed to do or needed to take. So in this decision, I had essentially decided to not use any medication, like I had said, and I wanted to combat this naturally and as natural as possible, whatever that meant at the time, because I was like, I don't even know what to do. I'm 17, 18 years old, going, okay, let's figure this out. So my mom had found yoga really, really helpful in her journey. So she actually started with Tai Chi, and then she moved into yoga and doing a weekly yoga class. So I was like, well, I guess I'll come with you. And she's like, yep, this is what we're doing. And she basically, like, in a sense, made me do yoga with her to figure out a way how to deal with this, right? So I started doing yoga with her once a week. I'd never done yoga in my life, which seems so crazy to even think of a time where I wasn't doing yoga all the time. It's become such a part of my existence now. So I started going to a yoga flow class. I learned yoga. I learned the whole thing, and I continued doing that. And within probably, I would say, like a week or two, I went down from 4 panic attacks to 3. And then another week, another one down, so 2 a week. And then another week went by, within 6 weeks, I was down to like maybe 1 panic attack a day, and maybe none at all, and maybe some days without. So I started to kind of look at my life, and I was like, oh my God, like this is transformative. And for me, that was my journey. It doesn't mean that yoga is the fix for you. Yoga is really about moving breath with body. So it's mindful movement. It's considered like moving meditation. So getting into your breath and really understanding the breath and starting to work into breath work can calm down the nervous system and bring down that fight or flight mode that we get into when we're in an anxious state. So for me, I really saw a benefit right away. I really loved the movement. I'd always worked out from a young age. I've always been a weightlifter. I've always been into cardio and walking all the time. So I was always an active person, but probably became less active in my teen years, like anybody. You know, you get into drinking and partying and all of that stuff goes out the window, right? But I was determined to find a way to stay out of that headspace and to not feel so overwhelmed. And for me, it really worked wonders. So I continued with yoga. I found that really, when I look back in time and look back at that experience, yoga changed my life. Like I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. And I wouldn't be where I am in life without it. It has helped me. It is my saving grace every time things get really hard and things get challenging. I reach for it, and I just need that time on the mat with myself to just really feel and be vulnerable and express that emotion and breathe that, you know, whatever's happening out of your body. So it's really been like integral in my life. So that's kind of how I started to work through the anxiety. And then when you start to kind of pick apart at one thing in your life, one healthy, you know, activity or movement or lifestyle thing, you start to kind of look at the rest of the things and you're like, okay, well, and I started to like see the layers start to unfold of my journey of the last, you know, 12 to 15 years of like, hey, like how can I be healthier? And this moved into like making a smoothie and, you know, trying to get more vegetables or fruits in my body. And at the time it was like a strawberry banana smoothie with like milk. And I was like, oh, this is like so healthy for me. And to look at like my smoothie now and see how it's evolved over 10 years is totally crazy because now it's green and full of so much stuff. So, but it kind of starts to pick away the layers and you kind of start to look at all of the different things that can really support you because it's not just about one thing. You know, when it comes to your mental health and your anxiety, it's really about, you know, movement, sleep, stress management, getting into your breath, eating well. All of those things really, really factor in. And we can dive into more of these topics over the coming weeks. And I can talk more about how diet and different things affect your anxiety level, your mental health, the serotonin in your brain, all that stuff. But a little bit more into my journey. So that's kind of where it started. And then I remember moving, you know, I was in a relationship at the time, you know, the first love where it was just toxic and emotionally abusive. And I was young and, you know, you think you're so madly in love with somebody and, you know, it's just a journey, again, a different journey, but I was in a hard place emotionally. And I was really just kind of discovering who Char was. So getting out of that relationship and changing, you know, things in your life, moving back home was integral. And then, you know, I managed to be able to get the anxiety under control. But then, you know, like I said before, it never really goes away. Like learning to understand that this is a part of you and starting to honor that these things that are occurring and why you're getting anxious and what's coming up is it's chemically programmed in your brain. It is something that exists always, and it's just kind of what triggers it, and it's so specific to each person. So I ended up, you know, going a few more years and was able to kind of keep things at bay with you know, taking a lorazepam once in a while to kind of just take off the edge, using, you know, healthy eating and using yoga. I've always had a really great support system. So it kind of just kept things good. And it's always, you know, again, been there. And then I moved into, you know, my teen years, my, you know, young adult years, I guess you could say. And I remember it being so prevalent in my life that I was fearful to drive out of Kelowna, where I'm from, the small, you know, small town, quote unquote, not so small anymore. But I remember being fearful of leaving Kelowna. Like I was petrified to drive like 45 minutes out of Kelowna. Like I would have a full-blown panic attack, so much anxiety where you feel you can't breathe, like there's an elephant on your chest and you're just spiraling out of control. And it can be the most simple thing. Like you think driving, like what? Like why would you freak out over driving? But like everyone's anxiety is so different. So I'd panic. I would panic the idea of leaving Kelowna, like that, so much anxiety. And I was really lucky because I moved to Edmonton 9 years ago almost, and the relationship that I was in at that time with my ex, he was an integral part of helping my anxiety, supporting my anxiety, and moving out of Kelowna, leaving my comfort zone, pushing myself to face my anxiety. And it was so important. And as scary as it is, you have to face the anxiety. You have to, accept that you have this little, devil on your shoulder that's always a part of you, and almost just like being willing to fight through it, to accept that it's a part of you, but to also be like, I'm going to win and I'm going to be in control. I'm going to be in power. So I had to make the decision to like, do I tow my car to Edmonton because I'm scared to drive for 10 hours? Or do I face this fear? And I won't bore you with the story, but a circumstance happened that just things didn't work out with getting my car there. And I had to drive the drive. And I had to do it. I had to face it. And I did it. I drove 10 hours to Edmonton in my car with, my ex having a support, and just like, I was like, I got this. And, the journey was like, once I got past that initial, like, oh my God, panic, I was like, I got this. I did this, and I got to Edmonton, and I was like, how did I even do that? And now looking at it, I'm like, I drive an hour on a highway doing 110 every single day. And like, getting in my car and getting on an open highway doesn't even scare me, like not even the slightest. So it takes time, and obviously don't push yourself out of your comfort zone entirely, but like, it's about taking steps to be like, how can I live through this? Because it can be debilitating and it can be crippling. It can be so bad that you can't get out of bed. And I understand that. I have lived that experience in so many different ways with my own personal journey. And I know that it can be so debilitating. So find whatever you need to really support you, and don't, force yourself into something. Just know that you have the power to do it. It's just going to take some time. So my journey evolved from there. I moved to Edmonton, and then just, life happens, events happen, and it's like you're constantly pushed. I remember like for the first time, leaving that relationship that I was in for a long time, in my early young adult life, and having to be on my own and fend for myself, and like really just, again, scenario after scenario of being pushed out of my comfort zone, facing my anxiety, and being like, okay, I don't have a choice. Like, I have to do it. I have to keep fighting. And you're so worth fighting for. Everything that you're trying to achieve, you were worth it. It is so worth it. And, I look at the journey of 9 years and really my whole life of just understanding my anxiety, understanding that it's a part of me, appreciating that part of me, because I wouldn't have gone through the things I've gone through, and I wouldn't have pushed myself to purely do this. I wouldn't be where I am without the anxiety, without what it's allowed me to achieve. It is, a monster, and it's scary and it's horrible sometimes, but I really feel that it has been an integral part of who Shar is, and the person standing here and sitting here talking to you right now. Like, I wouldn't be here without the anxiety. It wouldn't have pushed me to my limits. It wouldn't have made me want to grow. It wouldn't have wanted to make me eat healthier and take care of myself. Like, I wouldn't be this person. And that's the beautiful part. As horrible as some of the scenarios and the experiences have been, I wouldn't be her. I wouldn't be the person sitting here talking to you today. So I know that the journey is very hard, because I literally have been experiencing it for the entire pandemic of losing absolute control of my anxiety. I have worked so hard the last 9 years to really be in an amazing place mentally, and strong in my mental health, in my body, in my immunity, in my nutrition, in my mindset, and all of these things that I just told you about. And I literally felt it all come crumbling down during COVID, crumbling to the ground. And it's still on the ground. Like, I'm still trying to pick the pieces up off the floor right now, because I've reached a point where I am so anxious, so fearful of, again, the unknown, the anxiety of like, what if, and then you start to spiral, you start to lose control, you start to just panic. And it's the irrational fear and the panic of the unknown. So I, have it all together in a sense, but then I'm also superhuman, where I'm having a hard time too. So just know that it goes in waves, and that you might have years that are great and years that are progressive, and then you might hit a wall and you need more help, or you need more support, or you need to shift or change something. So know that that might be part of your journey too, is that you have to kind of pivot and know that it changes. Your body changes over decades. Your hormones change as a woman. So just be mindful that it might not stay in the same place forever or for a long time, or maybe it will. So again, unique to who you are. So that's kind of the backstory of that. Of how my anxiety has kind of become my reality, and how it's become part of my existence in my life, and how I've gotten to the place I'm at. There's so much more to unpack in between that. There's 9 years of self-discovery, and really all of that propelled me into wanting to start my YouTube channel and start sharing. I got into essential oils. I did my yoga teacher training. I did my prenatal and postnatal yoga teacher training. So like all of these things have just propelled me into self-growth and development, and wanting more, and wanting to do more and be better and kinder and stronger in my body. So it's really kind of just the starting point and like the tip of the iceberg of what I have personally gone through. But we can get into all of those things further into the podcast. So that is really the story. We'll talk a little bit now, before we close up today's podcast, just on some gentle tips and support for your mental health and your anxiety. I really share from a place of experience and a place of living in the experience. So please take what resonates with you, and if it doesn't resonate, that's okay. And of course, I have linked down below the mental health line. So if you are in a space that is not safe, if you are not well, if you are a danger to yourself or someone else, or you just need to talk because there's nobody to talk to, please reach out to the line below. There's always people who want to hear you, want to help you, and want to support you. And I'm also one of those people that if you guys just want someone to understand your experience and understand what you're going through, I'm here for you. So my email is linked down below in the show notes. All right, and moving into some little tips and hacks on how to live with anxiety, how to exist in this world with our anxiety. So, like I said, reaching out, talking to a helpline, finding a therapist or someone who can support you, because it's great to have a support system and a family and, friends. Like my sister, I know, is like my sister, my mom, they're both there all the time. I can call them any moment of any hour of the day, and they're like, what's going on? I called my sister like literally a month ago and was like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up and I'm so anxious and like blah, blah, blah. And she's like, tell me what's going on. And it's like 2 a.m. So find a support system, people that love you, that are there, but also know that like talking to a therapist and having a counselor is a really crucial thing, especially for someone who lives in an anxious state or a depressed state. And if that's something that's very common in your existence, then I really highly recommend seeing somebody, because it's not about having problems or you're crazy or you need help. All of these, societal standards that shame us for wanting help. There's nothing wrong with help. I see a therapist. Therapy is great. So don't ever feel shame or lack around that, okay? Be clear that you need help, and that's okay. So that's my first little tip for you. Talk to somebody, whoever that is. And then finding an outlet for your anxiety. So something that's really integral, especially for all of those thoughts, because you have all these like emotions and energy and anxiety in your brain, and it's like constant. It's like a swirling like pot of like, I don't even know, confetti. Like it's like in your brain, however you want to describe it. But journaling and writing is something that is a really positive tool if you are wanting to get all of that stuff out of your head and onto paper. So they call it like a brain dump, where you just like let it all go, get it all out, release all that crap. Another really great thing is like reading or crafting if you're a painter or an artist or like a doodler. So kind of just finding a thing that like allows you to get out of your head. I really love to like sketch and draw. It's kind of just an escape for me, but you could also like cook, be like into like baking different things or cooking different meals. Cleaning your house can be super therapeutic. I know for me, I'm like super OCD about that. So I'm like, give me the cleaning supplies. I'm going to go to town, which turns out great sometimes because then my house is clean. So kind of finding an outlet that works for you, for where you can escape and just kind of like dump that stuff out of your brain into an activity or a project, or, you know, gardening or whatever it is for you. Just go and do it. And the next thing would be moving your body. So again, there's these like standards around like you should get 20 minutes of exercise a day, which is totally baloney. And it's not baloney, but I don't like pressure, and I don't like a way of like you have to live your life this way. I really feel like it's like move your body and how it feels best for you. So if that means that you want to weight train, you want to go to the gym, you want to do yoga, you want to go to spin class, you want to go for a run, you go do those things. But if that's not you and it's not working, find something else. So maybe it's going for just a gentle walk around the block after dinner for 20 minutes. Maybe it's stretching. Maybe it's doing some physio exercises. Like, what's your thing? Like, what is going to bring you joy? Maybe you want to go mountain climbing with people, or rock climbing, or go to like a CrossFit gym. Like, there's no way to move your body that is totally like the way. So you do what good movement there is for you, and don't worry about, you know, you have to weight train or you need to do ab workouts or like whatever. Like, it's so silly. Just moving, getting that, you know, released in the brain, the serotonin moving, so good for you. And then moving into talking a little bit about substance abuse. So this is something that's very common in people that struggle with their mental health. So it can be really debilitating to live in that existence, to live in your brain, to have these emotions, to have these feelings. So oftentimes people that struggle with their mental health will often reach for substances to numb or suppress or to deal or cope with what's going on. So I encourage you to be really mindful around this topic. And again, we can talk about more of this in depth on other podcasts if that's something you guys are interested to hear about. But I know for me personally, I fall into the alcohol abuse. I've never been into drug abuse or sex addiction or addictive habits or tendencies, because it's not always abuse, it can be an addiction. I've kind of always fallen into the alcohol area. So if anyone knows me prior to, 2 years ago, I am a wino. I love red wine so much. And I miss red wine so much. And I've never had a full issue where I was drinking, when I woke up, or drinking all day or anything like that, whatever your defining term is for alcoholism. But I definitely reached a point in my life where I was drinking every day, a couple glasses a day, maybe every other day, where it was just reaching a point of emotionally, I was numbing my emotions because I didn't want to deal with my stressful, shitty day. I wanted to literally just drink wine because wine makes everything better, right? Or so I thought. So I had a bit of an awakening just over 2 years ago. I have been sober as of June 2019. I've been sober 2 years, June 2021. So it was a really big moment, a really big feat. And I never planned on getting sober. I never, thought I would ever stay committed to staying sober. But I have been sober just over 2 years, and it was not an easy thing. And there's still days where I miss it and I wish I could drink wine. But I know my personal experience and journey is that I can't trust myself to do that, because I will fall back in the rabbit hole and I will rely on that. And I really reached a point where I was emotionally abusing it, because I was like, well, I'm so stressed, and like my job is stressful and my life is this, and I'm having a hard day and I need a glass of wine to like cope with my feelings. And I had this moment, this aha moment of like, what am I doing? Like, why am I numbing my emotions? Like, I'm allowed to feel these emotions. I am allowed to feel this way. So, I decided that it was the best thing for me. And I have alcoholism that runs really deep in my family. My grandmother had issues with alcohol. Her grandparents, I believe it was her parents or her grandparents, were both alcoholics. There's a lot of deep-rooted history in my family. So for me, it was the right decision. It might not be a problem for you, might not be an issue for you, or maybe something else might be. But it's just kind of having that awareness and looking at how can you best live your most optimal, healthy life? How can you feel your greatest? And does that mean cutting out something or changing something? So something to be mindful of, something to think about. And then my final tip for you guys is to be gentle and be kind to yourself in your mental health journey. So wherever you are in it, whatever is happening right now, whether it's good, whether you're struggling, whatever it is, being gentle and being kind with yourself about how you're feeling, where you're at, and just taking that pressure off. So finding really nice ways to nourish yourself. So this would entail sleeping a lot if you can get to sleep, having a hot bath, reading a good book, just sitting in the grass and feeling the energy and really grounding your energy. Maybe using essential oils that you like, or holding on to your crystals like I love to do. Taking yourself out for a nice coffee, eating a delicious meal. So finding these really nourishing, wonderful things to feel good and to feel safe. Because living in an anxious brain all day, every day is exhausting. It is exhausting. And I know, because I live it, I breathe it, I feel it, and I feel you, and I hear you. I really do, because it is one of the hardest things that I think someone who doesn't have anxiety would never understand. They would never understand the severity and the reality of how insanely strenuous it is to exist. And to sometimes just get up in the day and be happy. And to just be here. So I really encourage you to honor your journey and honor where you are, and just be okay with where you are, and know that as long as you are here still listening, you're working on your mental health, you're working on tools or ways to support yourself, or maybe you're just starting this journey, just know that you're here in the right space at the right moment. And know that you're absolutely strong and amazing, because this journey is really freaking hard. Really hard. But know that you are worth it. You are worth every moment of fighting to feel the best in your brain, in your body, and in your heart. So I really hope that you guys take the time to care for yourself, to be gentle with yourself. And I hope that you took some tools and some tips from this podcast today, and that you learned something and you can take something away from today's episode. I'm so thankful to have you here listening with me on episode 1 of Discover You podcast. Be sure to check out all the show notes below. Follow me over on social media. And of course, any helplines or emails down below. Reach out, connect, share. I love to hear from you guys. I'm sending you so much love and so much light in your journey wherever you are. I can't wait to talk to you guys next week on episode 2. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whichever device you're listening on. And of course, share this with anyone who you think might benefit from hearing about what we have talked about today. Again, thank you so much, you guys, for being here, for joining me. I cannot wait to talk to you further on next week's episode. Thanks so much, you guys. Bye!